ما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم. This day coincides obviously with the remembrance of the great Spirit of God, Hazrat Isa, and the great Saint of God, Imam Ali Salamullah alayhima. And on that note, I thought we would just think through the essence of their teachings. You see, Isa Salamullah alayhi, he did not pick up the sword. He did not wage wars. The Prophet Muhammad only picked up the sword in defense of his right to be able to worship what he wanted to worship and to be able to express himself. So not going to the Prophet Muhammad just yet. So Isa spoke with the people. He appealed to their inner sense of nobility. And we see today the success of the message of Hazrat Isa. The Quran celebrates Jesus. The Quran praises his community. It says about the Christians, you will find the people closest to you are those who say, we are the Christians. For within them are priests and monks, and they do not egoistically and arrogant, and they do not behave arrogantly. So we see that Isa appealed to the inner nobility of the human beings and the community. And that's the only way he understood reform could come about. You cannot make people better people through force. People have to decide to become better. And there is no incentive, essentially, to become better than to recognize that being better is what I am supposed to do, and being better is my actual inner state that gives peace and bestows rest upon me. These are the same words Imam Hussein said on the day of Ashura that are attributed to him, where he said that, well, if you do not have any religion and you do not fear accountability before God, then be noble within yourselves. Be free man. It is below your dignity. We see this in our children as well, that we can threaten them to an extent. Beyond that, we can't threaten them. We have to reason with them. And when we reason with them, we have to point to their inner nobility. We have to say to them, you are better than this. You are good within there. You are a noble creature. And that is what appeals to us at essence, at the level of our essence. And I think that is because our truth is a godly truth. You see, these bodies are a necessary part for the existence in this world. A noble, angelic being takes birth in the cradle of animality. Animality can only delude that person to an extent. The nobility inevitably has to dawn, because that is the true calling. Now, if you were to apply force, as soon as the force is removed, goodness goes with it. Goodness needs an inner state that promotes it from within. And goodness perpetuates goodness. The Quran says, if you do good, you will have 10 times in return. The Quran says, if you do good, you will have many folds in return. But if you do evil, evil shall be curtailed to itself. Because evil is an arbitrary state for us. Goodness is an essential state for us. Now have a look at how the Quran and the God of the Quran is addressing us. You see, when you present a God who is intolerant, he doesn't really appeal in there. It doesn't. I know the fear of Qiyamah, the fear of hell is enough to keep us on the straight and the narrow, but that is only because we are afraid, not because we revere God, not because we value God or love God. We behave righteously because we are frightened of what God can do to us. I mean, think about it. Every time their skins are burnt, we will replace them with newer skins. Think about this. They will have chains inside hell that will fetter them. They will have molten brass poured down their throat. There will be flames that will appear like giant camels. Reading all these verses, you're going to be frightened. You will say, God is looking at me and I have to behave righteously. But is that really where humanity belongs? No. That is the reason why humanity has decided to altogether reject God. Because the inner nobility does not understand threats. We want freedom. We can't have a coercive God. But the modern human is coming towards God now in a very different way. You know, I've been looking at social media, and of course, it's very addictive, and I don't think it's a good habit to get addicted to social media. But of course, the conflict and the barbaric treatment of the Palestinian people, and they are our family. And of course, I'm guilty because any human being killed anywhere, any form of injustice should pain us. But we have to admit, being Muslims, we are drawn more towards Muslims. And that's an inevitable deficiency within us due to our faith, due to our faith belonging. So look at social media and you see all these Generation Zs. They do not have faith, not at least in the sort of God that we believe in. Now they're looking at the Palestinians and they're seeing the Palestinians say, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. They're seeing the Palestinians say, it is from God, to God we return. And they're saying, what God is this that can carry them through such unbearable calamities and struggle? Keep them together. They're not swearing, they're not cursing. They're not becoming barbaric. They're not asking for the death of the Israelis. What God is this? That is the God that is appealing to the souls, and that is our God. You see, I would much rather, as a free man, take a decision that I will not do wrong, O God, because I love you that much and I revered you to that extent. As a free man, O Lord, I want to reclaim my nobility, not as somebody who is afraid. God, you don't need to frighten me. That God doesn't appeal to me. But we have not actually read the Quran. Look at the Quran. Look at the way God speaks to the people. Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharraka bi rabbika al-kareem alladhi khalaqak. Oh noble man, ya ayyuhal insan, very noble tone. What has deceived you from your generous Lord? Look at these words. How beautifully he is appealing to the heart. Say to my creatures, I am indeed very near. I will not abandon them. And those who commit fornication, who kill, will have punishment. But if they decide to repent, bring faith, and do righteous deeds, Allah will convert all their evil deeds into good deeds. And who but Allah forgives all sins? Do not despair. And when the verse was revealed, that whatever you reveal and whatever you conceal, God shall bring you to account for it all, the Sahaba wept. May Allah bless the Sahaba. May Allah bless them. It's very unjust of us not to read the history of the Sahaba and not to read the verses of the Quran which praises the Sahaba. Tell me something. Do you find any community in which there is not a mix of good and bad? And those who are bad, are they so bad that you put them into hell? Everybody has good and bad. The person who stands before you has got far more evil than he has in the good, which is so very little. Yet you tolerate me, don't you? That's how human beings are. So Sahaba wept and they said, Ya Rasulullah, what shall become of us? He said, your God is so noble. He will spare no effort in finding every excuse to forgive your sins. He said, even if a thorn were to prick your finger, on the day of judgment, God will make that into an excuse to forgive you. Rabbun Ghafoor. Imagine. So the God that appeals to modern human is a God that speaks to them at the level of their hearts. A God of love, a God of mercy, a God of tolerance, a God that liberates from within, a God who is a parental God that nurtures us from within and instills within us a sense of responsibility and tells us, aren't you better than this? Even if I were to extinguish the flames of hell, even if there is no consequence for your actions, even then does your inner being not tell you that you are beyond this, that you are better than this? So I remember many, many years ago, when one of my daughters just wasn't paying any attention to her studies. This is going back when she was doing her GCSE. So I sat her down and I said, aren't you better than this? Think about it. It doesn't make any difference to me whether you fail. Your career is set. Your father is a Molana. You can become a Muliani. I didn't say that to her. That's just thrown in the mix. I said, but aren't you going to regret that you didn't try your level best? She changed. Of course, she got, all air stars and whatever. I don't praise her here. But then she came to me and she said with me, she said, you should have had that talk with me a few years ago. You should have had that talk with me a few years ago. You should have told me that, look, even if you fail, it's not going to make any difference to me. But will you be able to forgive yourself at a later date in life? That you did not do your best, what you could have attained. The awakening of inner nobility was the secret to the success of the message of the blessed Prophet and the Spirit of God, Isa. But I have to say this, Imam Ali, you see in his conduct, you see the same thing, awakening the inner person. When the Kharijite would swear at him, his companions would unsheath their swords, and Imam Ali would say, "Innahu sabbun bisabbin of afwan and dham." I have a right to swear back at him, or I have a right to forgive him. Leave him alone. It is me and him. His tax collectors, and you've read this, and you know this, I'm just reminding you this. His tax collectors, the way he was, the man was modeled on the personality of his master, the blessed Prophet of Islam. He was modeled on his personality. When you go to the tax collector, do not intimidate them. Just say, do you have any due for God in your wealth? And if somebody says yes, then say, oh good slave of God, escort me to your flock. And if they say no, then turn away and go to the next village. Respect their humanity, respect their nobility. And when somebody says, yes, I have the due of God in my wealth, then go with him. I'm going to just say this, and I know you've heard it, but it's so touching. He said, then tell them, this is your flock, divided into half. Choose the half you want. From the remainder, split it in half. Choose the half you want. Remainder, split it in half. Keep on dividing until you arrive at the numbers in which there is sufficiency for the zakat that God ordains. When you've got those animals, ask him, are you happy that I take these? If he says yes, take them. If he says no, mix them all again and restart the process. Where do you get a person like that? He's not after wealth. He doesn't want to extract khums or zakat or anything. God is not poor. God values your nobility. If you want to give wholesomely from your heart. For when you give wholesomely, it will produce more. God will be appreciative. It will yield more. And if you don't, then Allah is feeding the universe at large. And He will feed the maggots that wait within the earth to consume you. And I feel sorry for those poor maggots consuming meat like ours. Maybe they should be puking or punished with eating us. But at least they have to cleanse this earth of this filth known as human being. I'm getting carried away again, aren't I? In another one of his khutbah, he says, like the Blessed Prophet, I said, when you meet the enemy, do not sit with a stern posture, intimidating them. Get off your horse. Say to them, come to a truce. Isn't that amazing? Your commander tells you, come to a truce. Let us not have bloodshed. If they're adamant, fire not the first arrow. If they fire the first arrow, then begin to defend yourself. If they flee, do not subdue them. If they fall, do not put them to death. If their women swear at your commander, bother them not. Do not touch a child. Do not uproot trees. Do not burn their properties, and do not plunder their wealth. Now, these are the instructions that the Prophet gave in the battle. Treat them with dignity. So you see this example where these true leaders of humanity appeal to the inner nobility and awoke the inner nobility from within. And that is the only way for humanity. Coercion, force, pressure, warfare, they don't work. It's the last resort. Read the Quran. You will find in the Quran, يَعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. Yes, fight them to the extent that they fought you. That's what it says. Fight them to the extent that they fought you. And if they leave, then stop. Allah has not given you sultan over them. Allah has given you no right to kill anybody. You see, when these new generation Zs and millennials, when they read the Quran, they're not finding a barbaric God. They are finding a very noble and a very good God. And I'm finding that although a lot of them are Westerners, obviously, who are acquainted with Christianity and the message of love of Jesus, why are they turning to Islam? There are two things I'm finding. One is that they see a beautiful balance within the Quran. That yes, you're noble creatures. Your God is all forgiving, but you also have responsibility. You're supposed to keep yourself in check and balance. There is also your bodily needs. You need uniformity. You need to be one community globally in peace and tolerance. You see, Christianity at times forgets that part of the bodily human aspect, that we need uniformity. And Islam is so simple. Pray to God in rows all together. Go to Hajj. Pay the poor due. It's so simple. There's no complication about it. Call your God directly. You don't need any intermediaries. The Quran doesn't have intermediaries, yes? It is so beautiful, so simple, so appealing, uncomplicated. And then, when they go to mosques, they say, well, they don't judge us. Anybody can go and pray. There's black, white, whatever color, young, old, they all come and pray. And so many of them, they say, we read the words of God, they move us. But once I thought, let me hear it in Arabic. And he was sobbing, and tears were flowing. And the Quran says this, and when they hear what has been revealed upon you, their eyes inadvertently well up flood with tears at the recognition of the truth that is being sent to you. Obviously, they understood Arabic. These people don't, but just the words of the Quran, the way they are being recited. So Islam has so much, so much. The Islam of the Blessed Prophet is so simple and so appealing. You have a forgiving God, and you have a social system. You have oneness of the community. I'm going to just end on this note before we come back and resume the second khutbah. You go anywhere in the world, you go to Makkah and Medina, honestly, these are beautiful places. Like, my goodness, you can't explain. You hear the adhan, it actually moves you, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And everybody is flocking to the remembrance of Allah, the one God of all. You can speak with anybody, you will say, Salaam alaikum. Any Muslim anywhere in the world, the passcode is Salaam alaikum. Anywhere you go. Almost 2 billion Muslims, everybody will say Salaam alaikum. Peace be with you. The first thing you say to each other is peace be with you. Can you imagine how appealing this religion is? Will you do this, inshallah, if Allah so wills? You have been given this, alhamdulillah, Allahumma laka shukr. It's the universal language. It binds souls together. It brings Allah at the core of humanity, in speech, in deeds, in mind, in heart. Because we've taken birth in Islam, I think we overlook the very simple parts of Islam that are actually life generating and life promoting, and they appeal and touch at the very core of our humanity and the promoters of our nobility. I have found that these are the very things that are bringing these people towards Islam. But look at the charm of Islam, and I think they're seeing this, that the Prophet, to the best of my knowledge, has never even asked his wives to become Muslims, the Jews and Christians. I don't think he was concerned about those things, because the Quran said, say to the people of the book, come to that which we agree collectively upon, that we will not worship anyone but Allah. That's it. When they read this, they say, wow, what a religion. Be in peace and let there be peace. Be in a state of good and spread goodness to your community and beyond. So this is the only message that will work going forward. The message of inner nobility, inner responsibility, and freedom to reach out to God as free people and say to God, I worship you because I require to worship you at my inner level of nobility, not due to the threat of hell. Can we pray Surah Fatiha for all our Palestinian family members who have lost their lives and who are facing untold horrors and tribulations, for their ease and for all our humanity? Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Just very, very quickly, just looking at the state of Gaza, West Bank, and what is happening at a global level. Just looking at this, the world is in a real mess and turmoil. It is a real mess. I know it's a simple thing that the land of the indigenous Palestinian was given to Jewish migrants. And then, ever since then, they've been trying to take more and more land by means of force without fear of any consequences. To the extent that they can plunder, pillage, kill, attack teenagers walking down a road that has been flattened and no building, and they can shoot them down and post them on social media, to the extent that they have that confidence that in full view of the world they can display their achievements of killing defenseless people, and they know that nobody can do anything about it. Now, where has that nobility gone? That is what makes the whole situation not easy, but a very complicated one. It's a very complex situation, actually. So if you ask the Israeli Zionists, they will say, well, we are the chosen people of God. God has chosen us. And our God allows us to kill people who are our enemies. And if God has allowed us, in obedience to God, we are killing them. The Amalek, their enemies. Kill their women, their children, their oxen, their donkeys. Finish them all off. They're worshiping a different God. You see, when your God ordains you these things, then it becomes complicated. Then there's a prophecy that at the third building of the temple, that will usher in the era of the Messiah. The Messiah will come for the first time. So as far as they are concerned, they are doing something that is religiously ordained. They're not looking at their own selves and asking them that we've lost all sense of humanity, and that beneath this exterior is the light of God that is telling us everything is wrong what we are doing. So on the one hand, they want to build the third temple, settle in that region to usher the era of the Messiah, because they are the chosen ones. But they're not the real problem. The Christian Zionists, who at this point in time are funding them excessively from America, in addition to the billions that are passed annually from America to Israel, from the Congress. If you look at the interviews of those Congress people, they're not Jewish people, they're Christians. But they're saying God has blessed Israel and God bless Christianity. So they are of the belief. And the Christian Zionists were actually the real people, it appears, who were more enthusiastic of creating a Jewish state in Palestine because of the prophecies that they have of the coming of the Messiah. So the way they are thinking is that once the third temple is built, the temple has been built twice historically and knocked down, that this is would be the third time that they want to do it. The Messiah will come. Now the Messiah will come and either kill the Jews, or the Jews will convert to Christianity, and there will be rapture where everybody will be absorbed into Jesus and salvation. So you can see these theologies at the core and teachings from God that are prompting them into this action, and that is where the complexity is coming in. And then if you look at the world around, you find vested interests. I mean, Sunak, Keir Starmer, these are nobodies. They are here today, gone tomorrow, and people will swear at them and spit on their faces. We know this. Look at the state of Tony Blair. Every time he comes, people frown. He's a murderer whose hands are dripping with the blood of 1 million innocent Iraqi people. People frown at looking at his face. It's not a pleasing sight for humanity to look at this man. The fate of Sunak and Keir Starmer will be the same, no doubt. It already is. They've earned themselves that status alongside Tony Blair of being very despicable examples of human beings, and something that humanity frowns upon, that look, we can stoop to this level of these people. They're not Christian Zionists. They're not Jewish Zionists. What motivation have you got to depart from the ways of humanity and justice? So when you look at this, you will see it is a very, very complicated situation. Humanity is in a state of mess where the few at the helm of religion and governments are dragging the majority who are good, bearers of the light of God, to their destruction. But what does that mean for us? What that means for us is that we have to have confidence as God had confidence. The angels did say that this one that you're choosing as the Khalifa is not the right choice. He will cause corruption and spread and bloodshed. The Lord said, I know what you know not. So the Lord had confidence in Adam and the progeny of Adam. We need to have that confidence within our soul that good will triumph eventually. Maybe humanity is going through its last phase right now. You see, when a child is a child, the amount of destruction they cause relativistically is far less than when a child becomes an adolescent. I think humanity needs adolescence right now. The sort of harm we can cause is far greater than what we've caused previously. But after this stage, there will be an awakening. However, I want to make this point that the best place to be right now, in terms of our religion, is to be open, not constricted by religion. The world at large is opening up and awakening to their inner nobility and their inner goodness. Together with having, like we have, our races, don't we? Our ethnicities. But we are still a part of the greater community known as our British community. We can be Muslims, but that should not prevent us from being fully committed parts of humanity. Our Islam should allow us to become fully integrated within the human community. And there should be this beautiful complementary relationship where humanity adds to us and we add to humanity. I think that is the time now where people of all religion need to do this and increase the goodness amidst the calamities that are befalling us, and maybe they are set to worsen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be by our side and help us and guide us through these turbulent times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammadin al-Mustafa wa ala Aliyin al-Murtada wa ala Fatimat al-Zahra wa ala al-Hasan al-Mujtaba wa ala al-Husayn al-Shaheed bi Karbala وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي وحجة الله بن الحسن القائم المهدي المنتظر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.